The story begins
At the beginning?
with Leonard G. Horowitz, DMD, MA, MPH, DNM honoured.
What's DMM? I don't recognise.
I don't know
Direct
what
message me.
I don't know what any of them are. DMD, MA, he's got a Master of Arts. MPH, Master of Population Health. DNM, I thought that was...
Do not.
Do not call, like, that's...
You're thinking of DNR.
That's right.
God, I was reading an article.
But that's honorary anyway. That's
honorary do not resuscitate.
He's an honorary DNM. Okay. I'm going to read a bunch from Leonard. I'm going to call him Lenny. I assume he goes by Lenny. I'm going to read a bunch from him today, and I'll just add in some bits.
Does he know?
No. And in fact, that might cause... Sorry.
Big fan of the podcast.
Sorry, Leonard. But anyway.
I'm not sorry yet because I don't know what's going to happen.
Contrary to popular opinion, the most powerful hard science influencing society, politics, and economics is behavioural science. This generally neglected fact enables advertising agencies, social engineers, marketing firms, and the persuasive media to direct people like cattle most profitably.
So, I'm sorry, I have to ask. It's not often that I hear in my line of work behavioural science as a hard science at all. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm saying it's just not something I hear very often.
Don't get troubled by that point. Don't get troubled.
I'm warming up.
Don't get troubled by that point. We'll come back to that later.
Okay.
A flock of sheep, for example, according to the Merck Veterinary Manual, responds synchronously to stimuli, such as approaching dogs or humans, due to a special set of nerve cells that fire electrically, causing the release of stress hormones associated with the flight response and herd behaviour. Similarly,
They fly like shit.
Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point, How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference, cites social examples of the small levels or percentages of a total population required to act, at which point the momentum for change becomes unstoppable. There have been many unexplained mass hysteria episodes recorded, like the War of the Worlds panic, or Robert E. Bartholomew-related public health crises, occupational mass psychogenic illness.
And the dancing plague from this very podcast more than once.
We did.
Is War of the Worlds unexplained, though? I thought that was radio.
It was definitely
Well, actually, no. I was going to do a proper story on this one time. It's all fake. It was all fake. It's actually a big piece of misinformation. But that's a different
How
story.
dare you would say that though.
I was going to sales from Wholesome. Like Wholesome really spent a lot of time.
Yeah, he certainly would.
Yeah.
Wesley added the warning that this bizarre herd behaviour impacting health and well-being reflects poorly on our mass mindset inspired by the terroristic media. And so with this backdrop, this is his opening paragraphs, Lenny drops the mic.
What's he writing in? Just because the language is quite...
A blog?
Okay.
His own... Actually, I will give you the name. It's the Medical Veritas Journal. Truth in Medicine, basically, is
There's nothing dangerous about it. There's truth in it.
And I've got to confess that
Getting into wind turbines?
there won't be wind turbines, but there could be. There could be.
We can bring it in later.
This was the first journal title, like banner, like if you go to a journal website, the banner was flashing, like it was changing different colours.
Oh, fuck yes.
So, just to give you a little bit of context. Anyway, so he's dropping the mic here. Assuming the field of physics, including biophysics, is valid, and the universe, including life, is primordially constructed energetically, mathematically, harmonically, musically, energy, including bioenergy or spirituality as a medium of consciousness, impacts us physically very powerful and is mediated vibrationally, really hydrosonically, through sound effects on water. 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 Don't get stuck. Don't get stuck on any one bit.
So far. Yeah.
Water, nearly 80% of the human body weight, is a liquid crystal superconductor. Structured water science, as well as the field of electrogenetics, proves this thesis adequately, giving light, photons, and sound, phonons, have been shown to signal communications within and between cells via a liquid crystal protoglycian matrix in cells and tissues.
I've seen this movie. No, it's more like an adult comic book.
It's a little bit, yeah.
He likes an adjective, doesn't he?
This strongly evidences the theory of hydrosonic creationism involving DNA and structured water. Thus, biocreation and health restoration may have far more to do with frequencies of sound, energy, or music than has been thought. There are a lot of people who consider modern music annoying. Many become emotionally disturbed listening to certain types of music.
I'm exhausted.
Welcome to the Wholesome Show, the science and human body is water podcast for people who sit up the back of the classroom.
And in which we would normally ask all the stupid questions so you don't have to, but after that intro, I need a nap.
You think the stupid questions are already...
That dude's writing is exhausting.
Oh,
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. He's got a lot in there. He's got a lot in there.
He does pack it full.
I'm Will Grant.
I'm Dr. Roderick Griffin. Please, can I have a nap, Lamberts?
Please. We are joined today by...
Colin Klein.
Colin Klein, who is welcoming to the Wholesome Show from a School of Philosophy.
From School of Philosophy, Australian National University.
Excellent.
You're the whole thing?
Well, working on it.
I am the School of Philosophy.
It's me. The Wholesome Show is brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science.
And adjectives.
Okay, gents.
Oh, wait, were they adverbs? I always get they're adjectives, aren't they?
There was adverbs in there.
There was really a lot of stuff in there.
There was a lot. That's true. There's pretty much nothing wasn't in there.
I am going to read a story to you today.
So back to the nap.
I want you to play Conspiracy Theory Bingo.
All right.
So I'm going to read more of Lenny's theory, and I want you to chime in when you go, that's a conspiracy theory trope.
Do we have buzzer noise?
Not really. Yeah, there's that.
We have to make. How can we tell the difference?
Maybe just use your voices. Just use your voices. I'm just going to read his story, and I want you to chime in. And look, the reason we've brought Colin here is that conspiracy theories are very big right now. And I thought, you know what we need to do? I want to know about this particular conspiracy theory, but also I wanted to bring in an expert who could tell us a little bit about what the hell is going on.
So is he an expert? Are you an expert because you believe in all of them?
Yeah, so I was just thinking there was a guy on Reddit once who said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm a conspiracy expert. So that's,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Were you that guy?
Yes, and that guy was me.
So yeah, look, I know that there is this QAnon thing. There's been a few other things going on.
It's not ringing any bells. Oh, sorry, conspiracy. Beep.
Yeah, Jewish space lasers.
Beep.
That's going on a lot right now, and I think it'd be nice to give us some context, understand what the research says, what the philosophy says about why people love a bit of conspiracy thinking.
I think it's the flavour. They taste delicious.
I'm sure.
Carry on, William.
All right, back to Leonard Horowitz. Lenny? Yeah, okay.
The Lenmeister.
What few people realise, regardless of the type of music played in the Western world, the standard Anglo-American tuning for instruments and voices was instituted at the same time by the same agents and agencies, advancing acoustic war studies for inducing mass hysteria.
Sounds like a conspiracy.
Yes, it sound familiar?
Yep.
Did he venture to offer a year or at least some vague time frame?
We will get to a precise year. We will get to a precise year.
Can I say also, I've got to say, it's very funny that you ended the opener on music and shit and then played our luxurious classical theme song done by the most proficient of musicians.
I would say that music probably is part of the conspiracy.
Yeah, Lenny wouldn't be happy.
He wouldn't be happy. He wouldn't be happy with that. I'll tell you why later. And analysing the antecedents of current geopolitics and economics, this dirty fact of musical history may be foundational to the status quo and instrumental to contemporary socio-cultural crises, including modern pandemics, psychopathology.
Yeah, ding. I'm going to say.
You're in there, yeah.
Ding? What's the ding for?
Ding is the
You said identify.
conspiracy trope.
Yeah, tell us what it is.
Right, so you're getting this thing, an unexpected, like clearly modern pandemic. So all of a sudden there's this hidden cause. So it's not like someone eats a bat and we have to stay indoors. It's it's acoustic warfare.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the secret hidden history behind it.
Secret hidden history. Oh, nice.
Acoustic warfare is something I think I'd like to get into.
Well, we will be getting into acoustic warfare.
No, I mean, like, I got a pretty fat amp at home and I could really smash some eardrums.
Nice. Okay, so Lenny does a bit of a weird pivot here. And
Now he gets weird.
as I read through this, he does a bunch, some I call sidebars, where he just drops in a different topic for a little while. Some are direct pivots.
All right.
Throughout history, there have been persons of wealth and power engaging in war-making, profiteering, and various methods of population control. In 1770, for instance, do you want to guess what name I might be about to say next?
You get some Rothschilds.
Oh, there you go!
Oh, nice job. You are an expert.
Mayor Amschel Bauer, a.k.a. Rothschild, developed plans for the creation of the Illuminati.
Oh, yeah.
advancing the mission of global domination through a network of central banks that his family and their silent past.
You know the true conspiracy, the Illuminati, what they did was give birth to an entire industry of movies. That's what they're for. They're basically a Hollywood setup. That's
I think that's what they did. They 200 years earlier. Let's put this down because it make great plots for movies in about 200 years.
We know there's going to be a technology that makes this huge.
Many reputable authors today track today's degenerative socioeconomic trends and Aboriginal genocides to the Illuminati's powerful influence administered through private organisations controlling multinational corporations and governments.
I'd just be leaning on the buzzer. The Aboriginal genocide thing is unusual. Normally you get Illuminati, you just get straight up racism. So
This is applied racism.
Yeah, but thinking about genocide.
I think you may tell us later that many conspiracy theorists actually get confused at some point, whether they're pro or anti this sort of
Don't.
The apex was called the Enlightenment, when the illuminated ones, a Luciferian term meaning keepers of light, took over for God. Cool. Typical of Satan, decline into moral darkness is represented as light. Light and sound is generated and measured mathematically according to frequencies. Just hold on to that point.
It's all coming together.
Hold on to that point.
Yeah.
It stands to reason then, following Schauf's empirically evidenced thesis.
I was just going to bring that up.
He might have referenced that before. I don't know. I didn't put his whole blog post down. I got the good bits.
And you've read that, have you, Colin?
You only got like 14 or 15 pages.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We are engaged in a conspiracy reality in which ultimate power and control is waged bioenergetically. Science communicator, can you tell me bioenergetically, is that okay? Is that a...
Yeah, it's basically your meat with your electricity. And it moves between the spaces, between the meat. It has an effect.
So this conspiracy reality, according to Schauf, is through frequency modulations or electromagnetic manipulations affecting consciousness.
That's what I said.
And impacting biology, physiology, and human behaviour. Okay, back to our friends the Rothschilds. In 1913, the Rothschilds, probably by that point the great-great-grandchildren of original mayor, I assume, set up their third and current central bank in America, the Federal Reserve Bank.
Wait, which family is Anderson Cooper in? Is he a Rothschild?
He's a Rockefeller.
Rockefeller.
Well, hang on. With the help of their agents, J.P. Morgan and J.D. Rockefeller.
There we go. So it's a CNN thing.
Yeah. So... whose investments in American industry had been Rothschild financed since 1865.
Right.
Okay. World War I and World War II evidenced the banking cartels, profitable depopulation politics and policies. At this point, Lenny gives a little bit more sidebar where he says, we all know that the Rockefeller Foundation has been a prime sponsor of the United Nations depopulation program. Terminating 6 billion people on Earth is their current objective.
6 billion. How many do we have?
7.
7 or 8. As part of the kind of classic UN conspiracy theories here, it's also like the UN is trying, but the UN is clearly not very competent.
No.
They keep trying to take over the US, they keep trying to depopulate the world, they keep trying to do peacekeeping missions and get grain to people, and they're not very good at it.
They want to depopulate, but they can't.
But they can.
Come on, let's see this clearly. That's the perfect cover.
Yeah.
Being incompetent.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, but it's not working, as if we're trying to do that.
Yeah.
Duh.
And then he goes with the very common line now. Although most people find this hard to believe, thanks to media propaganda, massive depopulation is being advanced by the world's wealthiest industrialists. Among them, Bill Gates, who promotes poisonous vaccinations. He lectures will reduce nearly 900.
So Colin and I are going to start wrestling on the floor for the buzzer right now.
I had the buzzer, bro.
Yes. Just to flag this blog post article thing was published 2011. So he's very much he is a long way pre current pandemic.
Good for him.
Okay, now we get to Lenny's theories, because this is all very.
This is what we all believe, the kind of background exposure.
So this is
As you know,
we've heard his literature review.
As you know, the Rothschilds.
Okay.
Between World War I and II, and accelerating in the 1930s, scientific studies in musical frequencies best suited for war making were funded by the Rothschild Rockefeller, not the
Rothschild. There's a festival I'd go to.
The Rothschild. Yeah, that'd be right. It's in Sweden.
And there'd be so much money.
Lots of cello music, but it's all hard cello.
And what are the snacks? The snacks are delicious. They're all seafood. They're delicious. Pickled, though.
Where are we? By the Rothschild-Rockefeller Alliance, represented by Rockefeller Foundation in the US Navy. A major objective of this war and profitable population control, research was to determine the musical factors capable of producing psychopathology, emotional distress, and mass
I know where this is
hysteria.
going. The brown note?
There isn't the brown note, but I will tell you, there is, what do we call it? It's the Satan note. So I don't have the brown note, but there is Satan's something. Satan's interval. We'll come to Satan's interval.
I'm going to ruin it. Then. I looked into the brown note for an episode. There's no episode in the brown note. There just isn't.
Oh, that's so disappointing.
I know.
Where do we go?
That's what they want you to believe.
So, to start doing this, Rockefeller and the Navy started funding various research, and they got involved with Harold Burris Meyer, who was best known for the Muzak Corporation.
Okay.
Makes elevator music.
It was called music?
Yeah, there's MUZAK, Muzak Corporation. So Muzak Corporation, which used his expertise to optimize sound installations in factories so that emotional motivation of workers achieved through music would not be adversely affected by factory noise.
And preempted Enya by decades.
Now, I just got to confirm here that any quotes that Leonard Horowitz is putting in, I haven't double confirmed. So this is just what he's
I will
using.
say, I
So
believe that's roughly accurate about the history of music. You get this kind of industrial relations thing. It's like, part of this Henry Ford.
so not just elevators. This was actually.
Not just elevators, factories, this general like scientific management of space.
It sounds like someone on the Wholesome show should do that topic one day.
It's Taylorism and all the good stuff.
Yeah,
making
yeah.
people as replaceable as the parts of the factory.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you want to, you don't want them
sonically.
to wear out very quickly, so you keep them kind of happy.
Yes.
You paint things a nice color. You put some music. Yeah.
See, now I want to work in a factory too now. That sounds wonderful. Enya in pretty colours.
Look, I'd work in a factory with Enya.
Yeah.
Sail away, sail away.
Sorry, you're relaxing me.
Where do we go? So after he did that, during World War II, Burris Meyer was doing a bunch of music research as a weapon. So putting speaker arrays on warplanes such that enemy combatants could be addressed from the air. I mean, that's all right. That's just...
Dear combatants,
Dear
I
combatants,
hope this missive finds you well.
we're about to kill you.
Would you be so kind as to drop dead?
Or to try to do the mass hysteria thing again. Anyway, and according to Horowitz, Burris Meyer became convinced that audio control of human emotions was possible for a large enough portion of an audience to provide effective crowd control, a line of research ultimately found irrelevant for understanding the artistic or cultural values of music, but obviously it had a military point.
And also the musical manipulation of emotions. It's called music, man.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so
That's what it's for.
This is where, it kind of is,
Yeah.
that's true. This is where Lenny
Do you
takes
listen to music and feel nothing? Then why the fuck would you listen to music?
Shit, you've ruined his theory.
It doesn't make me want to kill. Well, it doesn't always make me want to kill
No,
people.
I think if we skip to the end,
Music makes you kill people?
yeah, no, he would say yes, music is meant to touch our emotions, but we want the high ones, the happy ones, the joyful ones, the spiritual ones, the ones,
The
that,
murder ones.
the ones that connect us with God. Whereas these ones, as we're about to see, connect us with the dark.
So pre-existing condition for Lenny is God exists.
Yes, probably. It's not 100%
much.
I
confirmed.
don't want to harsh Lenny's vibe here, but there's like a whole discussion in Plato's Republic about this, the different modes of music, and like there's the good ones and how the state ought to ban the bad ones that make you all murdery,
Yeah.
or get you all worked up. Maybe being murdery is okay if you're about to go to battle. It's been a long
So
time.
battle music.
In Plato, so what we're
he's saying-
talking about is what? Strings made out of animal guts and some flutes. I mean, what drums, I suppose.
Lyre,
Drums.
the lyre.
The lyre? Yeah, look, they've got all kinds
That's a
of
vicious and
No,
emotive
but
instrument.
it's like saying lyre is daytime civilized music, but if you're going to go to war, you get the drums out. Keep the drums until you're going to war.
But you also don't want the like degenerate, I don't know, I guess fucking music or something.
Fucking music.
I may be reading that back into Plato.
I'm just
No,
trying
no,
to
I'm
work out
saying
what the fucking music was for Plato.
It's the music that makes you want to have intercourse.
Is that like, I'm just thinking of
Do you want me to hum some?
It's like dubstep with the lyre. I don't know.
where do we go?
You might want to ask a classical philosopher that.
Okay,
Do
here.
you know any? You could phone them.
Lenny takes off.
Yeah.
This best explains why this activity is linked in time, subject matter, foundation funding, and the Rothschild-Rockefeller investments to establish the Western world's standard musical tuning of A equals 440 hertz. Sidebar. Okay, this is my sidebar, just to give you A equals 440 hertz. So A This is the A above middle C on a piano.
Duh.
This is the.
It could be middle C on anything.
This is the note that people tune to. So if you're in an orchestra, you want to tune to the same frequency, and that's the one that people are using. They're
There's
tuning
still a
to-
trumpet experience coming up right now, isn't it?
Possibly.
Do you tune a trumpet? Can you adjust it?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, like
How, you hit it with a hammer?
Because they get hotter and colder, and there's a
So you
slight,
put it in ice?
There's a slight valve. You pull the valve out, you push the valve in.
You can tune a trumpet.
Yeah, there's one down there if you want.
assume you need a hammer.
I'm pointing down there.
I know you're pointing down there, but I just thought you were, impressed.
Okay, so here we go. A440, also known as Stuttgart pitch. This is from Wikipedia, not from Leonard for a second. I just got to introduce. Is the musical pitch corresponding to an audio frequency of 440 hertz? I'll just play it for a sec.
Is this going to make me shit myself?
No, it won't make you shit yourself. No, I won't play that.
He doesn't know that for sure.
So
Yeah.
Save yourself, Colin. Run.
Okay, it's that note. So that is serves as the standard tuning frequency
For
for orchestras, for everything.
For
In
Western
fact,
music.
For Western music.
Yeah.
It's standardized by the International Organization of Standardization as ISO 16. While other frequencies have been used before, and I'll play some of those later,
Damn right you will.
A440 is now commonly used as the reference for just about everything. Just about everything in the musical world.
Yeah.
Now, back to Lenny. The fact that A equals 440 hertz is relatively distressing.
Numerologist coming in here.
He believes, as adequately evidenced below and elsewhere, implicates these parties and their research into for military uses. So he's drawing on some other articles here.
I think you mean evidence.
Actually, just for a little bit, he draws on this article by James Tobias, and I love this. He goes total sidebar here. He's like, I actually asked James Tobias if I could cite his stuff, but then he said no, and then I checked under the copyright regulations of his journal, and it says I'm allowed to quote it. So screw you, James Tobias.
They said get off my lawn.
Literally. So, just in the middle of the article, he has this beautiful digression where he just goes, I am allowed to do this.
I spoke to him, he was mean to me, fuck you.
Okay, back on topic, Lenny, back on topic. Tobias's manuscript makes it clear that he was alarmed at his discovery that bioenergetic research in acoustic science focused on producing the social impacts of emotional arousal and even mass hysteria. Now, the average tolerance of sound effects in different intensities, that A440, where are we going? Was being explored in this period around the world, and what he's saying is that it directly leads to all of the mass hysteria that you see after the war.
That frequency.
Yeah. So there's an article.
World War I or World War II?
World War II. World War II. So these revelations best account for the mass hysteria demonstrated by the audience responding to the rock and rollers, initially Elvis Presley, followed by the...
So the long hairs who wear t-shirts as actual clothing.
Yeah, that's
not
it.
underwear.
So 1957, there's this report by this Canadian music reporter. It was like watching a demented army swarm down the hillside to do battle in the plain when those frenzied teenagers stormed the field. Elvis and his music played a small part in the dizzying circus. The big show was provided by Vancouver teenagers transformed into writhing, frenzied idiots of delight by a savage jungle beat.
You mean the savage jungle hurts.
So
They
Lenny,
played 440, everyone went mental.
Lenny reckons that this was all part of a weird experiment that was being done by the Rockefeller Rothschilds as part of the U.S. Navy research into radio.
Yeah.
So how did they get this to be? So Lenny reckons that around World War I, the Rothschilds and the US Navy started doing research into acoustic frequencies that they could use to control people.
And time travel.
And probably, there's a story about a time travel boat.
Philadelphia experiments, man. He doesn't know.
Disappeared, came back, people like half stuck in the...
Yeah.
Ah, nice.
That happened, man.
Doesn't come up.
What?
Uh,
Well, your research is
Dropping the
bogus.
ball.
Yeah, I know. He's always been lazy.
That was, I think, frequencies and vibrations, too.
I think it was.
oh my God! So it all connects.
And the colour pink.
Look, I don't doubt that Lenny reckons you could probably time travel through vibration.
I reckon Lenny has.
Maybe. So after World War One, the U.S. Navy, all production of radio equipment at that time was allocated to the Army and the Navy. The Navy sought to maintain a Rockefeller-administered military government monopoly over the radio after the war ended. And many people don't know, but the Navy kept this monopoly. According to
I'm horrified. I don't need a moment.
Yeah, so they kept doing this, and they made a front company that was the Radio Corporation of America that included all of the big baddies of conspiracy world. So the Rothschilds, obviously.
The Gettys.
Not mentioned.
The Queen.
No.
And that Colonel fucking Sanders who puts a secret chemical in his chicken that makes you crave it fortnightly.
No, not that.
You haven't seen So I Married an Axe Murderer?
I have.
Come on. The Rothschilds, the Rothschilds, the Gettys, the Queen, the Pentaveret. That's who this is.
Yes. Well, it is a bit Pentaveret, but this is the Rothschilds, General Electric, Westinghouse Electric Corporation, AT&T, and United Fruit.
Oh, United Fruit.
So their goal was to lay the groundwork for fascist control over human bioenergy. And this would overlap with electrogenetics and the eugenics and psychiatric genetics movements. I don't know what any of those.
Electrogenetics.
I don't know what electrogenetics. But the way that they did this is really weird. They thought that 440 hertz was going to be the thing that they needed to bring in.
What do they mean? I mean, did you get any feel for that? What does that mean? Use it a lot.
Use it a lot. No, make everything tuned to that note. Yeah. And the argument is that this is mathematically out of tune with the natural frequencies of the universe that our bodies would energetics. Yeah, this is a manufactured false note. So if you want to go now, so he reckons that a slightly different note. So A equals 432. You probably can't hear the difference.
I can.
I felt calmer.
Yeah.
Less murdery.
That supposedly, I think it's the 432 or the 440, but there is something that you feel relaxed. You feel love for the universe.
Yeah.
Not because of that particular note, but those frequency notes that use that
based on
that note.
See, based on is doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
Yes,
So
totally.
it's not arbitrary at all.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were working behind the scenes between the wars to get this, and here's where Lanny brings in some more great characters.
Some more facts.
So it's 1939, and an international conference was held in London, and there was pushback. Some people, the Royal Philharmonic was saying they wanted 439 hertz. Others were pushing for 432. But the geniuses in the Rothschild Rockefeller group, the Rothschilds, they employed Joseph Goebbels. Which
damn, in 39.
Wow.
Yeah, this is 3 months before World War II starts. But
that is foresight.
They brought him over to London and said, "Look, what you got to do is you've got to sell."
Dude, we've heard how good
this
you are.
different frequency.
Yeah. Wow. We hear your career's on the up and up.
So this is from Lenny. Hitler's Germany invaded Poland officially starting 1st of September. 1939. Only 3 months earlier, following widespread rejection of the A440 frequency vibration by musicians around the world, Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels argued on behalf of this, apparently very important intrusion into musical artistry, effectively persuading Hitler's supposed enemies in Britain to adopt this allegedly superior standard tuning for the master race. So they adopted this in 1939, supposedly with Goebbels' idea. And this is true. They did adopt this as musical standard around the world.
But good God, I mean, calm the fuck down. I suppose that's part of conspiracy theories too from the outside.
What are you
calm
saying?
The fuck down.
Are you saying that the tuning note for A above middle C probably doesn't matter that much?
Don't get me wrong. I get a little bit head up about it. I'm a little angry, but there are things I'm angrier about.
Okay. So the reason, like the standard reason that 440 was adopted is that you can make it. You can make it electronically. Like you get a piezoelectric crystal.
Yes.
I don't know.
I've got one here if you want to try it.
And you can get a piezoelectric crystal that vibrates at 1 million hertz. And then you do some stuff.
Squash it.
Yeah, you do some maths. You get some electronic dividers.
Yeah.
And you divide it into 1,000. And then you multiply it 11 times, then you divide it by 25. I think this is all legit. Like that's all legit
probably
stuff.
right.
Yeah,
Like,
and then you get to 440.
Yeah.
So I mean, if
You're not delivering this in a way that sounds legit, though. I don't mean to, shit on your
No, I
parameter,
get it. But if it is mathematically true. If you started 1 million and then you,
Of course, it's mathematically true that if you divide a bunch of numbers in the right way to end up at 440, you'll get to 440.
That's true.
I don't dispute
That's
that.
true. Pick a number.
7.
You got a number. Okay.
Everyone picks 7.
Add 7 to it.
14. Wait a minute, and then
Take
you
7
do
off.
440.
There you go.
I see it now. It makes sense.
Well, okay. So arguments were that 439 is a prime number. Too hard to get to mathematically, and it didn't make much difference. 432, similarly. So 440 was supposedly the easiest thing to do electronically. So you could make like an electronic tuning fork that it would all be very easy to make and really systematized.
Sidebar on this, asking our guest expert, prime numbers and conspiracy theories, do they join together often?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's more in the really florid ones like this. So you get when you start getting numerology, maybe you get some primes.
There was
thing.
a lot of numerology in this.
Yeah.
Like there's. I mean, I'll get to a little bit of it, but he does have a theory that this is touching the substrate of the
Touching
universe.
God's calculator.
Yeah, this is touching God's calculator. Yeah, it's right down there.
He might keep it on a high shelf. It might not be down there.
According to preliminary research and analysis and professional discussions by Walton, Curler, Reed et al. On the web, 440 frequency music conflicts with human energy centers, i.e. the chakras, from the heart to the base of the spine. Alternatively, chakras above the heart are stimulated. So
From the heart up, great. From the heart down, no.
stimulated, I think you go to war or you get angry or something.
You get cut in the middle.
You get mass hysteria.
You get cut in the thorax.
The current tuning of music based on 440 does not harmonize on any level that corresponds to cosmic movement, rhythm, or natural vibration.
Do you know what it does harmonise with, though? Sound. It works.
Yeah.
Like, if it's all
Also,
music...
If you're getting cut off down here, it's also going to help the depopulation.
That's true. From the heart down.
The
So you're
loins
numb
don't.
down there,
So
you're
just
all
your
worked up.
all your
but, like,
fighting, but no loin action.
No loin action.
Numb to the business.
I think
That's the way to get rid of the 6 billion.
Yeah, there you go.
So you might have thought Elvis and the thrusting was making people degenerate in a way that would make more babies. But actually
No.
I've often thought that, though.
Yeah.
So he does do not coincidentally metaphysically. Double adverb.
Yes.
A double adverb that involves coincidentally metaphysically. The interval between A440 and A444, which is what other people are keen on, is classically known as the devil's interval in musicology due to its highly aversive, disharmonious sound. I actually play this because I played this and it is actually pretty weird. So this is 440. So if you can, all right, we got that. I'll turn that up a little bit. And this is 444 that other people are arguing for. That's pretty close to a brown note.
Why does it wobble? Or is that because they're playing together?
Two different notes playing together.
So stop the 440. I'm not offended by 444.
Do you feel love?
Yeah, but I always do.
All right, good.
No, actually, that one makes me grind my teeth and want to start smacking myself in the head. The devil's note, the devil's interval.
Devil's interval.
Which is exactly, if you turn it into physical measurement, the distance between your pinky and your pointy finger when you're making the devil's horns.
All right.
That's exactly what it is.
Tuning fork for the
Yep,
devil.
that's it, exactly. The devil's tuning fork.
There is an argument here. He goes that religious leaders originally suppressed music on the, and I think he means baddie religious leaders. Suppressed stuff based on the 444 because that was the miracle note played by Pythagoreans.
Wait, so it's the devil's music and the miracle.
This where he might be confused. Don't expect conspiracy theories to be internally consistent.
Why? Why wouldn't I? Why? Tell me why.
Much of this recovered knowledge was suppressed over the millennia.
Recovered knowledge.
But enough of the amazing details about A44. Actually, he does say, at this point, you should check out the amazing details about A444 at love528.com and Love the Real Da Vinci Code, which this is his argument, is everyone needs to shift to this other sort of tuning because it's so much better.
Because of our bioenergy.
We'll get our bioenergy. Okay, so at this point he goes into a big thing about ancient religions, the good ones. The good ones liked to use the either 432 or 444, but everything that is associated with 440 seems to be deeply problematic. So
did he name any? Or it's not how he rolled.
Yeah, okay.
Gregorian chant bad,
No,
Zoroastrian screaming good.
So one of the oldest uses of sound is for ceremonial and religious purposes. Whether the chanting of a Hindu mantra, the recitation of a Jewish cantor, a Christian hymn, or the call of a Muslim muezzin, sacred sound makes its way into all of the various religions. And he's saying that they make a significant choice to get the vibrations of their congregation just right. They need to get them just right to get them up to a more spiritual
And they
level.
somehow knew before the advent of even the idea of hertzes that 440 whatever was the go.
Yeah. So here's Lenny's conclusions.
Yeah.
Populations are now tethered like sheep by the psycho-emotional attachments and addictions to whatever this cartel sells and promotes through radio and television. This amounts to enslavement for the conduct of genocide. In essence, this military-industrial complex, rooted in a world of investment banking, has advanced a covert operation to control populations most loudly and profitably.
And ineffectively.
Via a certain tuning.
Yeah.
Music bioenergetically affects your body chemistry, psychoneuroimmunology, and health. Your body is now vibrating musically, audibly, and subliminally, according to an institutionally imposed frequency that resonates in harmony with aggression and dissonance with love.
Jesus Christ, he can bang some words together.
Doesn't he?
can't
Doesn't he? But we've all been made to vibrate at the wrong frequency.
We're doing it right now, and apparently it's audible.
And it was the Rockefellers. So he then finishes and says, what we all need to do, obviously to stop the genocide, is retune our instruments to 444 hertz rather than 440 hertz.
Okay.
And donate to his charity as well.
And does that mean
All right, Colin.
all music has to go?
Uh,
Existing music has to be all redone?
Yes. No. There is a movement, a not-for-profit service operating by donation to provide 444 frequency transpositions of every genre of music.
Oh, that'd be excellent.
Is under
That's
construction
cool.
to accommodate the needs and encouragements of recording artists and audiophiles worldwide.
I want to translate some Beyonce into 444.
I think if you did, then Beyonce would be obviously.
Should actually be a star?
No, she would finally. She's working very hard.
She'd crack it.
All right, Colin. Tell us what's going on. What's going on? give us the digestion.
You have 2.5 hours. Boom.
So there's a lot going on, obviously. I mean, in some ways, it's very quaint as far as this really does feel like a late '90s, early 2000s conspiracy theory.
Nice.
There are no pedophiles for one.
No pedophiles.
No Trump. No Hillary Clinton. So it's a really like
No pizza.
No pizza.
Yeah.
So just to hold on that for a sec. There's trends.
So I think you
in
get
conspiracy
trends.
theory.
I think you get in the '90s in the U.S. I mean, so this is more anecdotal. You get a lot more like UN stuff. So I think there was a real like flowering of certain kinds of conspiracy theories. I think the X-Files is actually a great encapsulation of this.
Yep.
So in the '90s, you get, because it's post-Cold War, so you need some kind of enemy. It's like kind of globalism plus UFOs. You get a lot of things in there. I think numerology very much in there. You don't get, this one feels like, so this feels like an older guy writing, because you're getting the Rothschilds, I want to say Vincent Price, but I confuse it with the.
Like that's Dracula.
Yeah.
Vincent Price.
There may also be Vincent Price. There's the whole thing about subliminal advertising.
Yeah.
That kind of shows at the beginning, which, from what I can tell, was largely an invention of advertisers.
Yeah.
So, not much there, but that was a kind of obsession, especially through the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah, not much of an obsession now, really.
Yeah.
Or because the science said it's horseshit.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, and
So far.
I mean, everyone's moved to clicks or whatever. I don't know. So
Yeah.
Nudges. We're all about nudges now.
Nudges, clicks. Well, I think the subliminal advertising is a very nudgy sort of thing. Like you have a Coke and you like flash a picture of boobs or something.
It's the idea of nudge.
Yeah.
Like a tiny thing will hit
true.
you in the right way.
Yeah.
But so
anyway,
trends.
but I mean, one thing, and this is a very classic, like in the conspiracy theory literature, this is idea of a monological belief system. So this idea that is one where everything connects to everything else. This is Gertzel has an article about this. So, you get this really classic, you've got Illuminati, Rothschild, the tuning of instruments. You get some math.
You get the Nazis.
You get Nazis. You get bodies, vibrations, ancient religions.
All the way out to the cosmos, all the way down to your chakras.
Yeah, anything you got, it's going to kind of come into this and be somewhere in. And you might kind of imagine the pin board and the links between them.
Yeah.
So it's a very classic picture like that. And one of the things you get is, this is, I think, the picture that a lot of people have of conspiracy theorists because, there's a lot of this. This guy's written a lot, clearly. I mean, you're giving us the tip of the iceberg.
That was tippy iceberg.
Yeah.
So he's written a lot, and also not only has he written a lot of articles, but within each article, he's written a lot.
Yeah.
He puts a lot of words in.
So
there's a lot of stuff. There's this kind of it's interesting. I've been thinking about this recently because it feels like free association in some sense. Because you're like,
it does.
And also Goebbels and
also
chakras,
Elvis.
So Elvis. But it's almost like this parody of. So I think one of the things it gives people is it's this kind of parody of scholarly activities. So, you read things, you're like, hey, did you know?
Lots of references. So he was careful to put footnotes in throughout, and he used epistemology quite a lot in there, and he used a lot of big words.
Yeah. So actually, and one of the things, we did a bunch of kind of big data analysis on the Reddit conspiracy subreddit. So this is kind of how I got to be an expert on this. And one of the things people talk about a lot is evidence, argument, puzzle. I mean, they're quite obsessed with this idea that they're accumulating facts and drawing links and they're referencing things. And of course, that's what makes it such a tar pit, because you go down through and you're like, all right, I don't actually think Joseph Goebbels was there. It's like, oh, but the Rothschild covered up his involvement, and so really you have to go back to this. You're like, I don't know what's there.
But it's not dissimilar to kids who think they're cooking. And so what they realize is you just chuck shit in a bowl and you stir it up. That's what my parents do.
Yeah.
That should be a cake, shouldn't it? This doesn't seem any different to me.
Yeah.
It looks the same. There are ingredients and they're combined somehow. And
they're
you present
footnotes.
them. Yeah. And you present them to people in a way that looks credible. Boom.
Well, and part of it, I think, is the idea that, the fact that you're drawing connections is itself supposed to be some kind of evidence of evidence of the truth of the thing. Which, again, is not, you get areas. I mean, I don't know, what is Malcolm Gladwell kind of does the same thing, except there's something defensible behind that.
Well, that was an interesting point there, where he's connecting to something that was written within 20, within the 5 years.
Gladwell has had his nuts flicked as well on all this.
No doubt. But
well.
All I'm saying is he wasn't just drawing on stuff that was done 70
my
years
mate
ago.
Keith and the Rothschild.
Yeah. So you get a lot of this stuff drawn together. Now, what's interesting is I think when Goetzel talks about monological belief systems, there are actually two different ways this can be done.
Just to check, what do you mean by monological?
So monological, the idea is supposed to be is a belief system where everything connects to everything else. So that you
one
can draw,
thing. It's all
there's
one
kind of
big
one
thing.
big thing. And it's not just, there is some sense in which everything connects to everything else, but it's a boring sense. So Aristotle talks about this. A guy, I forget the Aristotle example, it's like the guy goes to the well and like someone dies in the other part of the city. Of course, those are two things that happen in the same city.
Yeah.
But a meaningful connection between any two things that you can get. Now, I think this is the really classic one. There's also a version of this when you see the Rothschild that's often everything connects to everything else by having a kind of single sinister influence. This is really doing both. So it's like you've got, and the more explicitly anti-Semitic conspiracy theories are like this. You got one, George Soros, in the sitting in the spider web, pulling all the. I don't know if the
Does he even exist? I'm very curious about this. Is George Soros even a human?
Well, I think it's actually, it's an interesting picture if you're that skeptical at some point. Well, I think George Soros exists. Well, I think anything exists. And you're occasionally getting, this is flirting with this thing where, you get this escalation at some points. It almost feels like Philip K. Dick, so in his more floridly schizophrenic years. This is the sci-fi author, Philip K. Dick. Who mostly known for Blade Runner, the novel that made Blade Runner.
Total Recall.
Total Recall. Yeah, he wrote a lot of books with really good ideas. He's not actually a great writer, but he made a lot of good movies.
His titles are shit too.
Yeah,
nearly
Do
every
androids dream of electric sheep? You don't find that.
Well, that's the thing. Nearly every one of his books that's been made into a movie has
been given
a
a
title
better name.
shift.
Yeah. But so Dick near the end of his life thought that actually, to what it was at time, had stopped shortly after Jesus' death. There was an orbiting satellite that was kind of, so the conspiracy was actually about the entire world now. This was part of like, straightforward.
So he did think this. He got to a paranoid spot where he thought that. Okay.
And like his last trilogy of novels are sort of trying to spell that out a bit, I think, in his more lucid points. But so you get this kind of conspiracy where like once it starts going, it has this really cosmic scale. It's like there are these mass vibrations and they influence everyone's mind. So it's getting like the conspiracy. You start with like, here are some powerful people who don't have your interests at heart, which is true. Like there are lots of people like that.
Can I do a pivot just for a second? You can come back to this in a sec, but I just want to know what are the explanation methods for conspiratorial thinking? You're a philosopher.
Yeah.
I don't think any one discipline owns any one problem anymore.
Yeah.
What are the ways that people are approaching conspiracy? Is it psychological, sociological, or what are the other sorts of evidence that we need to understand what's going on
Scatological.
Scatological.
Yeah.
So I think there are actually, it's a great question. I think there are a lot of interesting trends on this. So there's a lot of psychological research, and I guess that's broadly what I actually came out of initially on this. So trying to look for example, personality traits. So the idea of a monological belief system is like, well, there are some people who are just more disposed to finding patterns, for example.
Sure.
So you've got that. You've got a lot of sociological stuff, and a lot of the, what explains it. It's people who lack a certain kind of political power, and they're trying to come to grips with that.
Or maybe at different historical times, during the Cold War you get a certain sort of thing, after the Cold War you get a certain sort of thing. Yeah.
And I think there's actually also interesting work, and I've done a little bit on this, on like kind of narrative effects, so actually properties of conspiracy stories. So this idea that one of the things a good conspiracy story does is give you an emotionally satisfying narrative.
It should do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not in the way that good stories ought to.
Yeah.
So
they're super seductive. When you hear someone join all the dots, you're like,
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
there. I'm there. It all worked. Yeah.
And that's why Elvis got popular. So it's got that. Whereas, I used to use this. One of my favorite conspiracy theories is this whole book called Mortal Error, The Shot That Killed JFK, where the guy's whole theory is that Oswald was there, he doesn't know why and doesn't care, took a shot at Kennedy, Secret Service agent in the follow-up car jumped up and accidentally shot Kennedy in the back of the head. A lot of the evidence about how easy it is to accidentally shoot somebody.
But I just got a hold for a second that accidentally I happened to be there with a gun and looking out a window.
The safety was off, and I jumped up on the car and
I just took a shot.
As someone who comes from America, like people get accidentally shot all the time.
I
it's
get
much
that.
easier than you think.
I know, but also Secret Service agents accidentally shooting the president. It's kind of one of those things where.
But so I think nobody likes this theory.
Partly
because it doesn't have the emotion, right? So it doesn't have the emotional arc. It's just like
there's no intent.
Cubans
there's no intent. Yeah.
Now there's a cover up. Like the Secret Service guys are like, hey, maybe we should not mention this.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying here is this is a shitty version of a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, because it doesn't have that kind of
there's
narrative
no grand emotional
satisfaction.
arc.
Yeah, so it's a conspiracy theory, but like people are just like,
fuck that. That's boring and dumb and small.
Yeah, exactly.
It brings in nothing other than a clumsy guy with a gun in his hand.
Yeah,
that's
who's
so
like,
true.
Yeah.
Chekhov's clumsy guy.
But it's true. Oops is not a word you hear in conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Not at all.
It's not like, fuck, that happened by a mistake.
That's the proverb or the saying. It's conspiracy or cock up. And no conspiracy theory can handle the idea that there's a cock up.
No, there always must be intent. There must be a deliberate reason that was planned out or somehow deliberately.
So is this an over-exaggeration of the extent to which intent rules the universe?
Yeah, sure. I think I like that way of thinking about it. Like people like finding intention in things. I think also, even when it's not intent, it's the, so you take like kind of coronavirus was made in a Chinese bioweapons laboratory.
Yeah, well, everyone knows that though. This isn't.
But even there, you might have like, maybe you get a kind of movie plot accident, but there's still like, and maybe there are multiple actors, but there's some kind of story going on there.
Yeah.
There's something. Yeah. There's the guy and the dropped vial and the monkey that escapes, or I don't know.
There's a web of significance in some sense. Okay.
And even if it's the narrative satisfaction, it's not like you feel happy about the world afterwards, because often these are usually pretty dark, right? But it's like, now I understand. Now I see why this thing has come.
At least you can say it makes sense.
Yeah.
I get it now. Yeah. Okay.
And I think it's people. That there's a real seduction in that it makes sense and therefore must be true. And I think, even in our professional lives, like us being academics, like it's very easy to do that. Like I see things all the time. I'm like, well, that kind of makes sense. So I'm willing to
But
I think,
we know this. This is classic persuasion where like people will take a stupid explanation over no explanation.
Yeah.
There is some kind of line of reasoning, even if it's garbage, you kind of go, I'm satisfied now.
Yeah,
If it's like, well, we can't explain it, you're like, yeah, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
So this is not uncommon.
Yeah. So I think, now what's interesting is a lot of the conspiracy theory, this is a really classic model, and this is the kind of things you see a lot. There are a lot of people who are conspiracy theorists on a much more limited scope. So this is one of the interesting things you find online, where it's much more about just about vaccines or just about climate change, things like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting question. One of the interesting questions in the research is: do people start kind of limited and balloon out?
Yeah.
Or is it you kind of go on and what you think is like, the U.S. is covering a bunch of stuff about foreign policy. Like you read something about the CIA in the '60s, and then you like.
Well, wasn't there? There's some research a little while ago where people were horrified to be lumped in with other conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
So
not like them.
Not like them.
Yeah.
No, I'm not a moon denier.
I think vaccines are just trying to put fucking microchips in us. That's different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I was thinking this very thing today. When all the announcements came out over the Twitterverse, etc., that Pete Evans is going to run for a Senate seat. And all I was thinking about this guy was, what happened? Like, was there a turning point? What pushed this guy into being the absolute nut job he's turned into? And it seemed like an accelerated curve. So did it start small? You shouldn't put too much turmeric in your desserts or something. And then it went into whatever the fuck he is now.
Yeah.
I think that's a good question.
So is he the MasterChef guy?
Yeah. One of those shows.
The Channel 7 one.
Okay.
My Kitchen
Sorry,
Rules.
I'm not. Yeah, right. But
A cooking show.
Man,
for Henry of cooking.
academics are such losers at pop culture.
I only watch the ABC in black and white.
That's right. Well, as I sit by the fireside with my Plato.
Do they start small? Do they go big? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that you do get, so the part of the problem, and I think this is, so you get this thing where they're like, look, you start small on something and you think, well, then I can't trust the ABC. Then I can't trust the New York Times because look, they've lied to me about this.
Yeah.
Now, one interesting thing about this, I think people are still, they want information though. So one of the things as a philosopher I start off with, I think, okay, look, I can see how you get to the point where you say, look, the New York Times, I don't believe it, right? You've got your standards for evidence, you put them up or down.
Okay.
You say, look, I'm pretty
and
conservative.
that becomes the thing you don't, yeah.
But, I think, I don't believe the New York Times. And also, Woke Dude 420 on Reddit told me that he knows a guy who knows a guy
who emptied this dude's
who who was like there when Hillary like put a bullet into Epstein or something.
Well,
so it's
deserved it, obviously.
It's this weird mix of like on the one hand,
credulous
skepticism,
really...
and then gullibility or credulousness or something like that.
But it's also this consistency thing. So, like, someone's right about one thing, or wrong about one thing, and you draw back on that. You go, so they were wrong about this, therefore they're wrong about that. They must be wrong about X, Y, and Z. And similarly, right, they were right about this one dumb thing.
Yeah.
Yay for them. Therefore, the next outrageous thing they say, believable.
But I think you get this feeling that there's hidden information. You're hungry for it. You've got to trust somebody. So you're ruling people out quickly because you think they're part of the problem. But then the only people who are left are the ones who are either shady or disingenuous or manipulating you or trolling you.
Is there a moment in your life where you feel you might have been on the journey?
I don't know. I mean...
Surely.
Yeah, probably. I really liked when I was in high school. This is now going back a lot. So you went a little like...
What, barely? 2014.
15 years ago-ish.
So I grew up in a small town. There was a great record store called Interzone.
Empire Records.
Run by this guy who was across the street from the porno shop and next to the gun shop. And they would have like punk shows.
Porno guns next to each other?
Well, this is America.
Duh.
And there was a guy who was really into Wilhelm Reich. So he made bad techno music.
Orgonomy?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, no, we did that one a while ago. Yeah. He's got the boxes.
Yeah, so he's got the boxes.
He's the orgasm guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like one of the few Freudians who thought that Freud didn't think enough about sex.
he was like,
dude, why are you letting the team down, right?
He wanted an orgasm-powered fuel source. Like,
No, he had an orgone gun that would like shoot down UFOs and make clouds, and at some point and it's a really classic, like the FDA came in and was like, you can't keep selling this stuff, we're going to put you in jail. And it was like, that's because they're suppressing.
We're sick of people coming in the sky.
Just got to say, bad choice by the government.
Yeah.
I think burning books, even if it's about orgasm-powered guns that shoot down UFOs.
Anything.
Yeah.
I just think, don't burn the books.
Well,
Don't burn the books.
I don't
mean,
need
certainly-
diesel. I've just got a.
So the kind of perpetual popularity. I mean, this guy made the kind of odd techno music that was popular in Germany. That was like orgasm sounds.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Honestly,
How did I miss that?
honestly,
I'm
also
going to redo that episode.
odd music popular in Germany is pretty much you can just take that for granted.
He had a trumpet that was made out of a human thigh bone, and that was like
yes.
part of the.
Oh,
so
yes.
you
How did you
see-
tune that one, Will?
How did I miss it?
I'll see if I can look it up. You can put the. So yeah, look, I was in high school. Maybe I smoked a lot of pot then too. Like I was hanging around this record store.
How's
This
that
guy was
possible?
talking
You
about
smoked pot and you
Wilhelm
ended up
Reich.
in philosophy?
Yeah, I know.
That's not
right?
possible.
People are always really surprised.
Because he never inhaled.
And so, there's this temptation, especially like now this was pre-internet. This was
Yeah.
kind of, so you're like, I don't know. Look, I know like 4 people who are interesting to talk to, and this is one of them. And I'm like kind of isolated, over-intelligent high school kid. So I'm like, all right, sure. Like, why would they burn
Is that the
all
guy
these
you were talking to
books?
or you?
No, he was much older. He also ran a catering business on the side. I just wonder what happened.
So
to him.
free sandwiches.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's like, and and it's like feels edgy, like because he would
Yeah.
have these punk shows that would get broken up by the cops.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, because I'm more because of the like BDSM parts of it. Like, the more I tell this, the more I
BDSM
think,
catering?
I think we're going to need a corkboard and some yarn.
yeah, mate,
Just to
this is the
follow
problem.
this.
Like, ordinary life kind of ends up like this. So anyway. So, and I feel like, and there was this, and I think you get this now even much more online. People are like, well, look, here's this thing. And you're like, well, I don't know, somebody to talk to. You gotta, you're, and similarly, like, maybe it's someone at your yoga class is like, by the way, I hear they put, microchips in vaccines.
And if you're open to that, or you're trusting, or you don't know,
Or you're
and
just
you
like,
think, oh,
there's a
okay.
lot of, even just politeness where you're like, that's great, but also like, well, you make really good brownies, and I don't want to like piss you off because then I'm gonna find a new yoga class, so I'm just gonna kind of nod along. Like, I think a lot of these things end up getting worked in ordinary life. So the quick answer is, I was into Wilhelm Reich. That seemed plausible enough for a while. I think until I like left and went to college or went to university,
And you
I
forget
was
about
like,
it.
Yeah.
Is that the death of most conspiracy theories? People just move on with their lives? Like,
That's
not
from what I
the
can
theory
tell.
itself, but people's engagement with these things. They just move on.
Yeah, I think for a lot of these, they move on, they find something else.
So here's the one for the big one, the big one at the moment. 2 parts to QAnon.
Yeah.
Why is it so virulent? And then also, why is it able to join in so many bits? That I don't doubt that there are QAnon believers that probably believe all the music vibration stuff, and it can join in all of these things together.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they're related in some ways. So it has this very participatory element. So a lot of, when you think of conspiracy theories, a lot of what people think if they're not involved in this is guys like that. They've got a blog, they write like 100,000 words on vibrational energies and whatever.
And they're the genius that's
They're the
uncovered
genius. But a lot of the
Quantity
online
is
stuff,
quality.
A lot of the online stuff really has this more. It's like D&D or something. It's this. You're sitting around. And you're like, oh yeah, but what if?
So it's an adventure.
Yeah, but you get this like fun of joint storytelling.
Oh, so it's improv as well.
Yeah, so I actually think there's a lot that sort of feels like improv. in this.
Okay.
It's got a very much yes and.
Yeah,
sort of feeling,
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, so you're like, yeah, and what if like Clinton killed Epstein to cover up Whitewater in like the 90s?
So the
because he
line
didn't-
is not
yeah.
so much like doing it makes sense. It's when you kind of go, I think it's true.
Yeah.
That's
And-
when you kind of step into a different space, perhaps.
And I actually think it's really a really interesting question. So obviously, this guy believes everything he writes, right?
Let's assume so.
Let's assume so. The people who show up at the Capitol building with guns really do think that they're like, they're going to find,
Well,
Maybe.
I do want just on them, and I think that's worth continuing with this true idea. That I would say, are there some of those people in that crowd that were like, "This is a great, funny thing," and then suddenly it became, it's that.
Yeah.
I remember, was it Guy Rundle wrote this?
Yeah.
When you've put handcuffs on people, it's real. Like when you're holding a gun, but I don't doubt that there may have
Until
been
it was a fun day out.
Yeah, there may have been some people that I'm cosplaying this whole way through. This is what a revolution's like. I'm cosplaying revolution.
There was also the suggestion that a lot of them genuinely believed that they would be protected. Like they were generally confused that the police were getting angry with them. It's like, what the fuck? But we were told this is the thing to do. Yeah.
But there's also certainly, like, maybe not the people there, but there are also just online, there's heaps of trolls, right? So there's a lot of people who are just like, oh yeah, here's this great idea. Like I know someone who told me that Clinton killed Epstein.
And so they're trolling the conspiracy theorists, and they might be conspiracy theorists themselves, but they're doing this to whip it into a certain.
But
difference.
I think what's really interesting is there's a really long, like really big gray area there where it's quite hard to tell.
Yeah.
And so there's I'm blanking on her name. There's this lovely book called Persuasions of the Witch's Craft, which I referenced enough that I'm blanking on her name. I'm sure I'll remember in a second.
Lady Gaga.
No.
Gwyneth Paltrow. Oh yeah.
No, this is a real academic.
Oh.
It's an anthropologist who worked on modern witchcraft in Britain in the 80s.
Cool.
And a lot of interviews and a lot of discussions about how they like talk about the rituals and why they succeeded and why they failed. Mm-hmm. And then she's got this great chapter. She's like, and by the way, do these people believe it? Because some of them are like IT professionals, and it's like some are very clear that it's a metaphor. They're like, this is how I express my modern feminism. Some are like, nope, ancient gods all the way.
Yeah, they're there.
And so for a lot of them, it's just very hard to tell. Like,
so who cares?
They're playing the game. Yeah. It's a social thing. Some of them probably believe it more than other words.
How many followers of any religion, if they're put fully on the spot, could say yes or no? There would be
not even many, religion. Listen,
many that say yes, many that say no.
Think about sports, like your passionate belief that your team is the best team, and when they win, your life is better.
Do people believe that?
Yeah, fuck yeah, they do.
Well, and I mean, I think this is a great metaphor.
Yeah, when you think about that, it's like,
it's not going to work for me. I don't.
He doesn't understand sports. He knows how to kick
it. But if I'm like, look, Giants are going to win the grand final next year. I know it. And we might sit there and we're like, and next year they're going to have. I might fully believe it. You might just be like, yeah, whatever, Giants, woo.
What's a giant?
Yeah. But as long as we can kind of have that interaction, it's pretty satisfying. It's pretty
fun. Like when I hang out with buddies who are really into sports, whatever the sport is, I can sit there and I can, I don't know, have a drink or whatever and watch the game, and it's kind of entertaining. Yeah. I can just get involved in the process. But in reality, I don't give a fuck. Like, it doesn't matter.
And so a huge chunk of that is that you're joining in the community. Yeah. You're saying, look, I like you guys. And so a chance to hang out and have some beers.
And we're all happy about something, or we're sad, we're sharing an experience. It's all good. Yeah. This doesn't sound.
And I think a lot of the QAnon has that. Plus, on top of it, like the actual, the Q drops of information. Yeah. I think they learned early on not to make predictions because they were always wrong. So it's just this like.
Nosferatu type. Not Nosferatu.
Nostradamus. Yeah. So it's this ink blot you throw out, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and I think what that means is that.
This is the thing, and this is here's an interesting parallel. I don't know if you're watching WandaVision. I don't know if you're watching WandaVision, but anyway. No. So this is.
He only watches the ABC in black and white. We already discussed.
I'm watching The Expanse. Thank you.
No. Fuck, that's good. I love that.
Really
get back on topic. Get back on topic.
I love The Expanse.
So this is the first time that the Marvel universe has done a TV show and dropped it out very, very deliberately once a week. Yeah. And I think the interesting thing that they've done is that they know people analyze. They have a huge fan base online, huge fan base, and they know people that analyze stuff when it comes out. Okay, what does this mean? Is Thanos doing this? Blah blah blah. Okay, but what's interesting about this, they've gone, okay, well let's exploit that by taking a once a week sort of format in the way that people in the early days of the internet watched Lost and were like, oh, okay, what is the smoke monster? What is it? And so there is an extent to which this is triggering a very similar mindset where people want to understand the meaning. And the safety, obviously, in TV is that
fictional.
We know it's fiction. Yeah. We know it's fiction, and we know it's safe, and there's no politics, there's no risk or anything like that. Yeah. But I think there is definitely a strong human instinct to try and make meaning, and then also to do that in community. Yeah. And those are nice, safe ways of doing it through sport or through TV.
Yeah, for sure.
And the same instinct would work very much for QAnon. And I think this is modern marketing, really. I think that's the interesting thing.
Yeah,
wow,
I think
you're connecting the dots.
No, I think there's actually, I've been trying to get a friend of mine interested in this who works on like media branding and this sort of thing, because I think there is actually this kind of, creating a shared identity through.
Are you angling for a job? A consultancy, maybe?
Man, they seem to make a lot more money.
But an academic?
No. All you got to do, you go into somewhere, there's got to be some media branding agency, and you say, okay, QAnon. but.
But
I can't believe it's not butter.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
We're going for like the
these
weird
shoes.
Twitter.
Weird Twitter.
Yeah, do you know the Steakums account? So
No.
you guys wouldn't even have cultural associations with Steakums, is the problem. There's a really low-grade form of like processed flattened meat that you traditionally use to make a Philly cheesesteak. It comes frozen.
Now that I've heard of.
The Steakums Twitter account has a really like long, and I say this unironically, interesting discussions of like social epistemology and conspiracy
God
theories.
damn, you know, go for it. I applaud it. Like, why not?
Interspersed with like, why not put Steakums on your breakfast sandwiches? Like, other than the obvious health problems.
Wait, there are breakfast sandwiches?
Well, I guess, look, it's like flattened cheap meat.
The best kind.
Yeah. Where were we? QAnon.
Steakums Twitter
Steak
account.
and Bless.
The Steakums Twitter account.
Steakums Twitter
One
account. Oh,
division.
QAnon. The other
QAnon,
thing,
there we go.
yeah, the other thing that it taps into, which is the national. So there's a kind of pedophilia. So I think the other thing that QAnon gets, and I should say like having. You know, I've been working on this stuff for maybe 4 or 5 years now, and the extent to which online conspiracy theories have gone really hard into like child trafficking based stuff is really striking.
Yeah.
Some of that I think is this like, well, why not pass this information on? Because I'm a parent. You think, gee, if there was this like even potential threat to my kid, might as well be aware of it.
Okay.
There's actually a good answer to that, by the way, which is like people who actually work on child trafficking are like, please stop sending us this shit because this really distracts resources.
You're literally wasting our time from
doing something about this serious problem.
But it's also the raw shock value. I mean, when you talk about what norms can you violate,
Oh yeah.
that's as base as it gets.
Oh,
Yeah.
So of course
and
it's going to have traction.
this is why poor old Horowitz, Lenny over here,
Yeah.
his dumb conspiracy theory. They're controlling you through a musical frequency.
So and Judas Priest already fought that case in court, and it's fine.
Well, yeah, but it's also where's the Satan eating pedophiles? The Satan worshipping child
They
pedophiles.
put the babies on the pizzas, and then they.
You've got to raise the stakes. Like,
I mean, I actually think, I used to complain about this before it became a conspiracy theory thing, but there is this, like,
Now it's okay.
stake raising where, like, there are no real villains in movies, so, going into, like, the Battlestar Galactica reboot.
Yes.
I think there was one where there was this black marketeer, and they're like, he's like, well, look, your distribution system isn't working very well, so I sell penicillin, I'm getting it to the people who need it. And they're like, oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense. He's like, also child prostitutes. And they're like, oh yeah, now you're a villain. We can tell you're a villain. It's like the one thing that nobody tries to redeem.
No,
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Thanos is like, I'm going to kill half the world. And you get people like, yeah, well, maybe they deserved it.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as
At least
they-
he's not fiddling with kids.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they never did that. Like
Yeah.
You don't know that. You haven't seen the latest movie.
Oh, yeah, I haven't watched WandaVision either.
But it's definitely the case. I mean, I think as soon as you bring in pedophilia, you've gone to a
You've
point
got a
where
villain.
there is no human being who can in any real way say, yeah, but he had his reasons.
Yeah,
Like,
this is
there's no
actually,
defense.
The thing with this, even older kind of conspiratorial, there's a book called The Thanos Syndrome. I want to say from the 70s. I believe it's by the same guy who wrote The Boys from Brazil.
Oh.
This is the Hitler clones?
Yep.
Okay.
It's an
You
old
gotta
movie.
slow down for a few
It's an old
things
movie.
here.
Sorry. Old movie, and it was a book before. They were cloning a lot of Hitlers. There's this other book where
Similar, but just
Yeah.
slow point.
Yeah.
Even Hitler would admit in his dream of Germany, he was not the best physically of them.
Would he?
I think Hitler
Would
said
he?
Germany's great, but
Wish I was.
I don't think he was saying he was the best bit.
Look at me. I'm Aryan Dream, except for how I appear.
Yes. And my general frail, like methamphetamine, real hell.
But I love vegetables.
Anyway, yeah, so it was this like kind of guy who wrote thrillers about philosophically relevant things. So it was like this town where they put this drug in the water supply that like made everyone more compliant. And they're like,
Oh, you mean fluoride? I've never heard that one.
yeah, right. So and then the climax is basically they're like, well, look, like teen pregnancy is gone. Like there's no crime on the streets. People don't lock their doors. And the protagonist is like, oh yeah. I mean, it's like, and also because everyone's compliant, we started a kiddie porn ring.
There you go.
It's like the laziest plot twist.
Dude,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing so well, and then
Yeah, but so I think that gives you this villain and like a kind of morally unambiguously
Yeah.
terrible
Yeah.
villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, I mean, to go back to actual scholarship, not some of these thrillers, there's a really interesting book called Network Propaganda about the 2016 election, where some of it is about, conspiracy theories and the role of right-wing media amplifying them. But a lot of it is all about the demonization of Hillary Clinton in particular to make Trump palatable to evangelical Christians.
Anyone. Yeah.
But particularly like evangelical Christians and Trump doesn't seem like a great fit. So you've got to do like, well, but if Hillary Clinton is like literally Satan, like if she's literally murdering babies, then I guess maybe
who would you
really
prefer,
bad guy.
the actual Satan or other?
Okay.
So they're all looking for a reason to vote for Trump, and then along comes this conspiracy theory that then says Hillary Clinton's actually Satan. Then you're allowed to.
Yeah, or at least she's
to.
personally murdering people, she's trafficking children, she's,
So which way are you going to vote?
I don't know, maybe the guy who's just a sexual harasser and a bad businessman, I guess.
All right, so I guess, what's the end result for QAnon? Does it finish? Does it wind up? Does it disappear?
It changes form, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Q ended by saying maybe the real Q was the friends we made along the way.
That's right.
Q
is in your heart.
It's a 90s sitcom.
Yeah.
We all learned something.
Freeze frame high five.
Or
doesn't it turn into Aranon and then
I don't know. Or this is the hard thing. Actually, to go back to pop culture, these shows, the TV shows that are kind of based on ongoing raising the stakes and ongoing flipping things in the way that Lost was, and in some sense Seinfeld, very hard to end. It's very hard to end a conspiracy theory where you go, and suddenly, it's all the smoke monster, or it's
then
all...
they woke up, it was all a dream.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
Right, well, the ending of this was supposed to be like Trump pardoning everyone and then opening up the doors of the Capitol building to reveal Clinton's child trafficking.
But that was never going to happen.
It's not going to happen, right, because it's not true. So
you don't know.
I think what you're going to get is some of it's going to... There's a great old study called, When Prophecy Fails.
Yeah.
About a
would that be about
cult.
all prophecies?
Well, but particularly doomsday cults.
Oh, okay.
And a particular, I think it was a UFO-based doomsday cult in Chicago. So, there is this kind of, some people drift away, some people just get really embittered and kind of, and then you get some people, and I suspect this is going to happen with QAnon, where they're like, well, that didn't work out, but my eyes have been opened to all of the, complicated problems caused by deep state pedophiles.
Yes.
So even if this one wasn't there, so you get this real kind of undermining of public trust.
Surely most of them just move out of their parents' house and get a job.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I
they're not in their parents' house. Q followers
Q has gotten big.
Their average age would be 50. I'm guessing now.
What?
Yes.
A lot of this is like a much older,
It's Facebook follow. It's freaking, I mean the bulk followers now are from Facebook.
Yeah, and Facebook misinformation on Facebook skews quite old.
Yeah.
So I saw
this. Here's something. Sorry, listener, but I gotta step out for a second for a research project. I want to know. This is the one thing I want to know. Which misinformation on which network? Because I got a theory that time travel skews, as in time travel is real. That's a YouTube phenomenon. Climate denial. That's probably a Twitter phenomenon. QAnon, now Facebook. Drinking urine that's an Instagram thing. That's my guess.
That's not what I expected.
You're going to get all of these across everything, but it's true. But I mean, some of these, like, they're drinking urine, weird...
What do you think of Instagram? Piss drinkers.
But I do. I'm sorry, listener, if you're on Instagram. I just, it's the Where's Wally network. But I do think...
Yet again, so children books? Piss drinkers.
Yeah.
No, but I think if you were to pick which social media...
TikTok is Larry Stylinson.
TikTok hasn't got its conspiracy theories yet.
No, I'm trying to drop Larry Stylinson.
But which social network would be the urine drinkers? It would be Instagram.
I'm not arguing with you, I just didn't expect it.
Yeah.
As a urine drinker myself without an Instagram account.
Yeah, that's just for the fun of it. Yeah.
Don't brag about it.
Health reasons.
You said go anywhere, but I don't think we're going to go anywhere on this. Maybe FetLife for the piss drinking. So, I mean, what's interesting is you're getting this kind of cross-pollination with... That's going to sound bad now. So, because Instagram, I mean, really the reason why you're getting the piss drinking on there is because you're getting like kind of health professionals, whereas
Yes.
Twitter, or health professionals that.
Twitter is not the healthy person's network by default.
Yeah.
No,
There are healthy people on
no.
Twitter, I'm sure, but not by default.
Christopher Hitchens is still alive in the network because of Twitter. He just exists as a virtual entity.
Twitter is getting people who want to fight and who want to fight like fast and quick.
They don't want to drink piss. I'm not here to drink piss. I'm here to stand for that.
Instagram is very much the like, here's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And this lifestyle involves me looking healthy and fit in front of Bondi Beach while I'm drinking piss. Now that is part of it, sorry. But don't you want all of this?
No, keep going. Have my attention.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know a lot of work done on Instagram. It's hard to work with images. So like all this stuff
there is a thing where Instagram has boomed recently for QAnon because there's been a lot of the hashtags.
Twitter?
Well, no, it's come from Facebook, but a lot of the hashtags have been Save the Children type stuff.
Yeah.
People have, not knowing it's a QAnon thing, that have been dragged into the QAnon orbit via those kinds of posts on here, Instagram, that are very modern Instagram-y looking things.
Yeah.
What do we do about it? Okay, let's wind up there. What do we do about it?
Yeah, I wish I had a good answer to that. I mean, I think, but there are two things. There's a kind of individual level and then there's a cultural level thing. I mean, I think cultural level...
I control both, so tell me what to do.
I knew it!
The individual level one, I think a lot about, some of it is just telling people about, trying to recognize some of this as much it's an interpersonal problem as much as an epistemic problem.
Yep.
So you've got people, particularly if what they're getting out of engagement with conspiracy theories is this kind of community of people where they're telling a story together. Some of it is as much like finding good alternative narratives. I mean, this is going to start sounding creepy, but there's this whole idea of counter narratives that comes from anti-extremist and anti-terrorist thing where, one of the things if you're going to radicalize someone is this narrative about, America as the great Satan and how you're going to fight against them, whatever. That's probably old school by now. Or you see a lot of this work, one of my collaborators worked on this with kind of toxic masculinity online. There are these narratives of feminism weakens our men, and that's why we're all cocks.
And so what we provide a counter-narrative.
A counter-narrative is some kind of story. So I think you actually see this since you guys are the kind of science communication. A lot of what counters anti-vax is in some sense it's not scientific knowledge per se. A lot of cases it's science. It's this look, science is great. We ought to trust scientists. It's not necessarily a deep understanding of immunology because immunology is really hard. So in some sense, it's the building up. Except the science part is good because that's.
Oh no, we don't have that position. We're very anti. Scientists are assholes.
Well, not
offense.
scientists.
Yeah, okay, it's true.
The products, not the people. I hang around scientists too. No one wants to defend philosophers either. I mean,
No, man, you guys are great.
Yeah. That's what everyone says after a few years.
That was the most resigned.
No, I had a rowing coach who was a philosopher, and he made me want to just keep rowing.
Good.
Get the fuck away from him. But he was a very good coach.
Yeah. I think
was that that was the individual level.
There's a lot of stuff to say at the individual level. At the social level, I think there's this. Some of the conspiracy theorizing is a symptom of. Now, some of it is a symptom of the President of the United States passing on conspiracy theories. It's hard to battle that, but a lot of it, one of the things I've been talking about a lot recently is take things like the weakening of Freedom of Information Act laws, which lots of governments have done, but it's become a big problem in Australia, or shifting business cases to private entities so that they don't have to be revealed under Freedom of Information.
You're just arguing for transparency here.
Yeah, so
maybe
a lot
a little
of
bit
this
more
is transparency, but part of it is that if you look at how there have been a lot of actual conspiracies that have been unveiled. Many of them are on a relatively low level. I think of certain kinds of corruption. So ICAC reveals a kind of low-grade conspiracy that
something Peter Dutton's doing at the moment.
These three RSLs got more money for their Chinese restaurants than the other ones. Are fuck, the world's in danger.
Yeah. But a lot of this is if you've got trust that these kinds of things will eventually be brought to light. The system's not doing that. Then I think, that's the kind of regaining trust that made you think, look, if the government says something, if the New York Times, the ABC, or whatever says something, I can kind of trust that. I can also think that if something bad's going on, I'm going to hear about it. So I don't have to go, look and see what Woke Dude 420 is up to. I think, people, so a lot of the belief in conspiracy theory is actually this kind of, symptom of a lack of transparency.
So a disempowerment thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I have no power, and I feel like other people have power over me, but if you can pull that back...
And if I think they're not going to lie to me about it, I think, the truth is going to come out sooner or later, and there are procedures for that.
And also, so here's what you'd say. So transparency being a good thing. And also we can all look at and trust some of the institutions out there, but also retune our instruments. So bring them to 444.
No, I'm a 459 guy.
459.
I'm going home. My guitars are about to change.
Nice.
444 sounds awfully close to 666.
Well, you could do that. Well, it is. It's a fraction of 666. Yeah. So retune your guitar to 666 and see what happens. you know that the devil will get through.
Tune in. Find out.
The Wholesome Show is normally me, Will Grant, him, Rod Lamberts, and we've been joined today by Colin Klein, even though I've been saying so many times this week, Colin Firth. I don't know, the word just pops in my head. I know, it is. It's the Colin.
Your spank bank should not come into this.
It's the Colinness. And brought to you by the Australian National Centre for the Public Awareness of Science, and today
adjectives
by some philosophy people over at the other side of our uni. We don't know. They might have a school.
I don't even know if they exist.
School of Philosophy, RSSS, CAS, and you, the world.
Woo! Shout out.